Alright, this is the front indicator lights for the Fiat. This is the driver's side. You'll see here there's 3 wires. The one all out on its own. It's here, then you have the blue underneath and the black above. One other thing on these indicators is this little clip here is always placed partially down the wire to stop it slipping through the hole at the back. So this is the passenger side indicator light for the Fiat, and on this one, the one out on its own, is the blue wire, and then we have yellow underneath and the black above. This is the bar here that pops up the headlight, so we can take the back bolt off there, and then also on the inside is 2 bolts in the back there, and they come through to just underneath the support for the bonnet. So they're in here, and that looks like all there is. One more bolt inside for the pop-up headlight, and it's right back in there. It's easiest to get through the access panel underneath the pop-up headlight. Anyway, it's right there, and that's how it pivots. Little vents, it just looks like there's some screws holding this on, and then it looks like it just pops out. There seems to be a little popper right behind that part there, and there's probably one at the other end as well, but we'll take out the screws and have a look. Just looking at this again, there's actually a screw underneath there as well holding it on, and I don't know what that is there, but I'm hoping it just pops out after that. We'll have a look. Turns out that the bit that was underneath this hole, which was underneath this side, the thicker side here, actually had a small bolt in there, which I took out using a little socket, and it was a 7mm, and there's one on both corners, one on the corner of that one and one on the corner of this one. Underneath the hood here of the X19, these are the little brackets that you use when you take the top off and put it underneath. There's one on each side, and it just looks like I don't know how they come off, but anyway, that's where they sit. Maybe that split pin just comes out on the side there, but we'll have a look, take them out. When it comes to reinstalling these pop-up headlights, definitely take the bolts off, put the bolts back on from the inside. Much more easily accessible, absolutely everything's easily accessible. And then when it comes to the pop-out headlight, there's a center section to it here. It's held on by the little screws that hold on the bracket that holds the headlight in, but there's also a spring attaches underneath in there, and there's also some screws on the frame that are accessible from the inside. So there's 3 of those by the look of it. So they just all need to come off. So each screw needs to come out, and the spring comes off, and then this gold bezel will come off from the inside. Then we can clean it up, get it painted. These headlights, this is the passenger side. There's a little bracket, and you can access the bolt from the inside and take it off, and you'll see that the bracket, when you look from underneath, bends off to the inside of the car. If the headlight's up there, this way is the outside, and this way is towards the bonnet, so you can see that the bend goes out. And on this one here, which is the driver's side, you can see that this just comes straight off like that, so we can clean it up, bag it up, and put it back on later. Alright, back to the headlights again. When you actually see this bolt here at the back and you take it out, it hooks off here, and the other one is down here on the side, and the bolt is that one there. So when you have undone both of those and take the spring off, it just unhooks out of there. If you unhook it from there first, you can unhook it sideways. So pull this bolt all the way back, and then when that one's done, undo the one on the side. You can then unhook from the side and pull off once the spring's removed, and no need to take the small little screws off from the side. Okay, so inside the boot there's some kind of soundproofing slash fireproofing, I don't know. Anyway, it's fiberglass, and then there's a metal lid that goes on top of it, just slots in on top. So there we are. Okay, going to take the boot off. It appears to be just these two bolts and these two bolts right here, plus just need to unhook this little bar system here. They just seem to push out and leave it connected up there. Try and remove the whole section as one. So apparently take these two bolts off here, undo this line and this line, and then just the three little bolts on top holding the strut up. See what happens. Actually two bolts holding that on, not one. So I'll bag those up as lower strut bolts. So I've taken this bolt off the bottom, 22mm, and then there's a bolt here, 22mm, and you hold on to the back there. Not this one, this is a separate one. And then the last bolt is back here, it looks 22mm as well, and that should drop the whole of that arm. Just removing these bolts from the other end of the axle, so I'm going to do engine CV joint bolts is how I'll bag them up. So just doing the drive shaft. This is the end that goes into the wheel, this is the end that goes into the engine, and there's three of these little shims that fit round, all three of them that fit around on these holes here. I'm going to remove these two brackets. There's one on each side, and they're actually holding in this heat-proof shield. This is the exhaust housing here, so I need to get rid of this heat-proof shield, replace it, clean it, and do some anti-rust in here. It's a little bit surfacey rusty, so we'll just scratch that up and get it clean. I'm going to take, there's only two bolts on each side, I'm going to take those off and bag them, and you call them brackets in exhaust bay. Okay, the brackets are off, so just for record, there's some little spacers that fit up against the bulkhead here, and then the screws go through the bracket and through these just to give it a bit of padding out from the bulkhead that's behind. These little things here. The brackets in the exhaust bay are actually different. This one is from the passenger side, sits up in there, and then the driver's side one, completely different, a lot flatter, hasn't got that big bar on the top. So that is passenger side with the big bar on the top, and this one is driver's side. After that piece of metal has come out in the exhaust bay, there are actually two side bits here as well. And these come out too. Obviously the driver's side has got the wedge towards the front of the car, and the passenger side also has a wedge towards the front of the car. Just looking at the front suspension on the Fiat, we've got a front bar here, comes down and sits on top of the bar that goes across to there. There's the strut and ball joint. So the front control arm goes to the back there, and then this arm sits on the top and goes to here. The rest is the same as the back with the caliper and the strut, but you've got to remember that this front bar here, there's the front of the car where the radiator sits, that front bar sits on top of the control arm. Suspension settings. There's only 2 bolts holding on the caliper. Can't really see it, but they're tucked inside here behind the caliper. One at the bottom and one at the top. They'll come off first. Next we're just going to remove this hub. So I need to take off this little pin here and that little bolt there. Taking that little piece off there off the front of here, that has released the rotor. So that'll just come off. And now we're going to take off the dust cover. Just this one little bolt round here to take the dust cover off. Alright, one thing I learned from taking apart the driver's side is this bar here that goes to the front and goes to the top of this bar. Take this off first, otherwise it just spins and spins. So we'll take that off next. Alright, the knuckle is now released. You have to bash on this lower part to get it off. But now the strut's just held in by the top 3 bolts. And this bar here, I just loosened this nut just so I could take that control arm out. And now this is the last one, this front control arm. I just need to take that off and this whole piece will pull away. Remember how this goes back together? This is the bar that goes from the knuckle into that hole here at the front. And what we'll find is it comes apart like this. The bolt comes off the front. So these 3 bits go the front side near the bumper of this. So they actually go in here like that, and the bar comes through and the bolt goes on the back of this. And then this part comes through from the other side and it all comes apart. So there's a rubber bushing, there's a centerpiece that comes out, there's a washer, and there's 2 spaces. So 2 spaces, then the washer, then the center holder, and then the bushing slides on. That then pushes through the hole to the other side of the front where we get the other rubber and the washer, and finally the bolt. Tighten it up, and then we've got 1 bolt here that goes through there and the other control arm at the front. That's how it's secured. And remember, when you put it back together, tighten this end up first before tightening this end, otherwise it will spin round on its axis. These are the little catches that take the tiger top roof, and they sit inside these 2 bits here, and they go in this way up with a cut at the bottom on both of them. So the cut goes on the bottom, and all you have to do is squeeze them, opens the hole up, and then there's just a little cut out just under here. So the bit that lifts up slides underneath, it all just slots in. So no screws holding them in, they just slide straight in. Alright, taking apart the calipers, this is one of the front ones. In this section here, right in here, you have a block goes this way underneath with a thick angled edge going up against that back plate. And there are two little clips like this that go, when it's in there, they go through that hole to stop it sliding out. When that's happened, take both off. This should just rock out. I'll show you in a sec. There you go. This end slots in. The holes are to the back, and it just comes in and out like that. It sits in, falls out, then you've got access to the pads. And then on the inside, you should have access to the piston, which appears not to be in there. We'll have to check the others. Alright, so the pads literally just push in here underneath the spring clips, like that, one on each side, like that, and they just clip in. And then underneath here there are two springs, and they just flick up and off both sides, with the curvy bits on the outside. They go in like that, and the same on this side, the curves are on the outside. The last bit of the caliper are these retaining clips with the sharp angle on the inside. You'll see there's two little holes in here and the little clip on the inside. If you bend these two little bits, one each side inwards, they should pop out of the holes and it should slide out. Springs come out, that's how it looks. There's the caliper, and you squeeze them together and put them in, so this is angling up like that. Right, this is the front passenger caliper, and here's the brake hose connecting into here. You need to get the piston out, so I'm going to take this bolt off on this bolt off and force some air inside, see if it'll pop it out. When you put it back in, the raised lip needs to be facing up. So this little bit faces down and the raised lip faces up around the cylinder, like that. I'm trying to get to the steering column, and I need to look under this carpet. So this cover, which is behind the center console area, back there, looks like it's just held on by two Phillips head screws, so we're going to remove those. Okay, going to do the seat removal. What you need to do is push the seat back, and then underneath is the handle to bring the seat backwards and forwards, and the thing just slides straight off the front. So the handle's under there, and there's no nuts to take up. The whole thing just slides forwards and off, which is why the back needs to go back. Okay, going to take these carpet trim pieces off. They're just Phillips head screws, 4 of them, but look at the way it's actually fitted. The little rolled up bit comes up and over the pinch weld, and the flat part goes onto the carpet. And you'll see here that also when you look at the carpet, it's cut around the railing right here, stuck down a bit, and the next bit I just need to remove that cover as well. Just taking this handbrake cover off. If you just give it a good pull, it flicks off the edge. So just take it all off like that, and then we're going to have to take this cover off because it's holding down the carpet. So pulling that off should give us access to the cover bolts, and this just needs pulling off over the top of here. Alright, going to remove this on the inside, just past the door jamb. There's a little bracket here, actually holds the carpet in place in areas, and it's got to come off. It's just a couple of Phillips head screws. I'm going to remove the seat belts. So this is the passenger side. This just pulls off, and there's a 17mm bolt underneath. So on this side, get it right, there's couple of spacers and a washer, a couple more washers, and then underneath the catch is only one washer between the bolt and the bracket. The rest is all spacers. And then here the bolt is actually right underneath there, another 17mm bolt right underneath. That just comes straight out. Just looking at the boot release mechanism and the engine cover release mechanism, it looks like it just clips into the top with the new one and then clips in and is held there. The thicker cable is the one nearest that goes on this side, and it just comes out, and these you just undo with looks like, I don't know, maybe a 4 or 6mm. And the same on that side, and that's how they are just secured in there, like that. Okay, just a little video on how to refit the door handles. You'll see here there is a wire coming through the door, runs all the way back, all the way here, and goes into the mechanism here. So when you pull on the door handle, this pulls and pulls this open. It clips into the top of the door handle here. This one's actually broken, so I'm gonna have to replace it. But just so we know how to fit it, this goes into the previous hole, and then there's a little catch here at the front that has to go over the top. And then these two at the back go onto the piece of it, onto the door itself, like that. Then it clips in, then it's solid. So this bit at the front, there's two. The second one has to be on top of this piece of metal, and then these two clip over the top. You can actually get your hand in behind and pop the wire in from back here. So that is definitely possible. And maybe even recommended. Yeah, you can definitely feel where it is and clip it in, but this one's broken. Anyway, to get it out, you just pop it forward, push it through, and then it will come out of this hole from behind. There you go. Just for when this goes back together, the little adjustment handle goes on the left hand side of the seat as you sit on it. Just going to take this off. It's two 12mm bolts, one each side. The only thing we need to disconnect that isn't already disconnected is this hose here. It goes up to this junction at the top, and it's the inside one. We just need to disconnect that, and then it follows all the way through and goes in underneath. Everything else looks like it's already disconnected. Just looking at the X1 Tiger top roof. These are the strips that go down the side, the weather strips to keep it dry. These are the front clips, but you'll note on the inside of these there's a little screw that should be in there to hold on this side, and there's one here as well, and on the other side. They're missing a couple, but they should be there to hold the weather strips on. So I'll just need to cut them to size and put a screw in there to hold them. This will need vinyl paint. By the look of it, feels plastic. And this I can probably do with vinyl paint as well. So I'll paint the other side first and then flip it over and paint the inside. So this is the engine cover upside down. I'm thinking of taking the rivets out, and just so we understand, this is the rear end side of the engine cover, and there are little rivets that go through here and hold on this little flexible strip that's sort of made of vinyl. So I need to remember to take these rivets out but then rivet back in this strip when I've finished. Fuel tank out. I've already taken off the filler top there. If we come underneath, there's 2 bolts holding these straps on the back, and another one here. There's 2 on the front. The longer bolts, see there's 2 sizes. The longer bolts go here towards the engine side, and the shorter bolts go towards the front of the car. So remember to put the shorter ones there when we put it back. Right here and here. Again, this little gasket here goes around the top of the filler cap. Just there's a little hole in there, and it's meant to fit in there nice and snug all around the metal through that gap in the middle, but this is pretty stiff, so I'm pretty sure it won't. I might try and get another one. If not, I'll think of something, but that's where it goes. I'm going to put it as the fuel tank neck gasket here. So I have to disconnect these hoses. So we got 2 little breathers here. The short hose for the one on the right, it goes to the top left, and the long hose goes to the one on the left, and that goes to the top right. And then here we have carburetor V left to the bulkhead. That goes right at the very bottom here. And this one we have as saucer 1 goes right in the middle, and that's the 4 hoses that go to the center unit. So saucer 1 in the middle, the carburetor V left bulkhead goes on the bottom left. The long hose to this little tank on the left goes to the right, and the short hose to the little tank on the right goes to the left. Alright, so looking at these wires here going to the fuel sender unit, we've got a red cap here going to the left, black cap going to the right, and then we've got an earthing wire here. So red cap to the left, black cap to the right, and earthing wire here. There's only the one earthing wire, so we need to undo those before This is the drainage pipe for behind here, just below this Bosch control module. This little pipe here goes down in this hole here. So I'm going to put another plate on the bottom of that with a hole in, and then it goes onto this pipe here. This pipe, so air cleaner. So I don't know why it attaches to the air cleaner, but it does. Anyway, new plate on there. Drill a hole, put that through, connect it up, and the pipe comes down from under here area. On the Fiat, doing the rear lights, I'm presuming that this one here is the reverse light, this one here is the indicator. So on the back we have a blue wire coming to the indicator and a red wire, so we'll unplug those. We're going to label those indicator. Get that one off for some reason, I'll come back to that. Now here on what is effectively the top of the light, we've got striped wire coming into the top left hand, and then we've got this common wire that's going to boomerang from back here where it's just come off all the way into here, then all the way into here. So that comes off. comes off. So that's all one wire, and that also is the same wire that comes all the way back and into the bottom of the reversing line, which is here. So that is one wire that just jumps around all of them. There it is. That's that one wire there. And here's the stripe wire. Put that down just for a second. There we go. So we've got the stripe wire off, we've got the blue wire off, and that just leaves us with this one wire here that goes to a stripe wire. We've got one loose wire here, which is this. I'm just going to play back the video to see where that went. Pretty sure it was on here. With this connecting wire just jammed underneath. So we'll play that back and have a look. Just check my video, and this white and red striped wire definitely was just placed under here with this common wire that runs all the way through the lights. So when it goes back, it's placed underneath here and it's connected up with all the rest. That's how it was on. And the other stripe wire is just jumped from this red wire. Anyway, the spare white striped wire on its own clips into this section here at the bottom of the light, underneath one of those common wires. Just so we know, there is one last wire, which is this green wire, and it tucks down right in the very bottom of what I presume is the reversing light. So you can see there it goes right in the very bottom section. And once that comes off, the whole light's free. Just remove this from the X1.9. This little end goes through the hole just below that guy's hand, underneath the strip, and that little bolt there goes into the firewall, and then these just go through on the right. So it goes through this hole here, hook through in there, and then bolts into that end. Just on the Fiat again, we've got the engine covers that sit on these two screws each side. Take this one off. So it goes on like this, and I'll put this in with the nuts and bolts, but this actually brackets to one of these two on the passenger side. And I've got another video showing where the wire goes to. And this is what it says on it. These are the number plate lights for the Fiat. I need to take these off so I can get them painted. So there's just a black wire and a yellow wire. And, tuck in here around the back. So I'm just going to cut them. The yellow wire just unplugged, but I'm going to cut them and mark them. This is the Fiat X1.9 windows, and the little quarter window is held in by 3 bolts. The bottom one has got a really short little bolt, and it tucks behind a little panel on the inside, and the top 2 have got bigger bolts. You can see there, that long, so much longer than the ones that go down here. And then these little brackets go on here and snap the wires on the window between them to allow the window to go up and down. And then this little thing goes on there with just one single bolt, and that stops the window going too far. Now, one thing to note is when you put these windows back in, the big piece of glass has to go back in first. So just put it back in, let it fall to the bottom, don't tighten it up or anything, and then put the little quarter windows in, and then adjust the big window. And then the trim goes back on. Now with the trim, this little bit here with the curved edges, this goes on the inside of the car, and there's a little screw at one end just in there that goes through the metal on the inside of the car to hold it on. So all the rest will snap into place. So this bit end is where the quarter window is. All that just pushes down using the little plates, and then you have to do that final screw up. And the bit for the outside has got a brake for the quarter window, and that literally just pushes down. That's it. Just doing the boot lock or the boot attachment for the X19. This little bar here, you just push it out, push out both these ends, and it will just push over the top. And we've got a little cotter pin in there. We'll take this off and bag that up. Alright, just going to take these bits off. This one's on the left, it's got a short little stubby next to it going into here, and then you've got the little bump out elbow going off to the right, a shorter one into the tube, and then a longer one coming back. It's just held in, the whole thing's held in by this one bolt. So I'm going to take that out and then replace the tubes and paint these. This is a little plastic cover that covers up the clutch and brake lines on the Fiat. It's just held on with two screws. One down in here, other one here. It takes it off. Take it off. We'll just put it in a small bag and call it brake line cover. These are the two top mounts for the Targa top when they go in. I'm just going to remove those and put them in a bag. I'll call them bonnet Targa top mounts. This is the double brake master cylinder. As you can see, there's two lines coming off it. That master cylinder. This is the Fiat X19 brake fluid reservoir. It's got two chambers. As you can see, that white line down the middle going up and down. There's actually a solid divide, so there are actually two separate units here, so you can actually replace it with two smaller ones like these, and they'll do the same job. Taking off the clutch and master brake cylinders, to the left hand side of the steering column you can get access to this bolt here, and a nut comes off. It actually goes all the way through to here. It's a really long bolt. There you go, this one here, and it pulls out, and there's two of them, so they should both just pull through. Anyway, there we go. Here's a tip when you're taking apart or putting back together your X19. This is the 1979 version. When you go to take out and put in the dashboard, drop the steering wheel. It's 4 bolts, and it makes life so much easier to get things in and out. Everything's accessible, so there's a top tip. This is the X19 radiator as seen from behind the driver and passenger seats. So you can see that the shorter hose goes on the left, longer hose goes on the right because it attaches to the top, and the plug hole for the temperature gauge goes there. I'm going to recondition the electro valve, which is this bit here, and the gulp valve here. So there's one bolt with that bracket that way up, with the two holes in the back on the gulp valve, sits in the engine bay like that. And then there's also another bolt in there, and this bracket sits like that. Hose goes from the top of the electro valve into the bottom of the gulp valve, from the top of the gulp valve into the bottom of the electro valve, and there's one spare there to go back to the engine block. Just looking at this weather strip on the top of the X19, there's a couple of little screws, one at each end, and then these that the targa roof clocks into, there's two screws there, and then there's a couple of screws holding the rear view mirror in, and that's all that seems to be holding the weather strip in. X19 light behind the seats. We've got a little stripy wire here on its own, and then these two wires going in there, and there should just be a bulb, which is obviously missing, and it just pushes back in, no screws.